We've got a terrible ESPN broadcast. What else is new? We've got Victor Robles throwing bats at pitchers in Tacoma. And we've got the Mariners with a dud performance tonight in the rubber match against the Mets. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome in to the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. Mariners lose this one 7-3 to the Mets in the rubber match. Before we go any further, like the video, subscribe if you're new or lurking, and comment your thoughts on the team and the game down below. Here's where the playoff picture stands. It's a lot of moving parts right now. Mariners are a game and a half back of Houston in the American League West. They're tied with Boston for the first wild card. I believe they are a game or a game and a half up on the Yankees, who currently hold the third wild card, and the Mariners are 4 games up overall on a playoff spot. So that's where we stand as of August, going into August 18th. And now the Mariners will head out, I guess, a very short trip to Philly to play a very good Phillies team in what should be a competitive series and a good test of what this Mariners team really is. Before I dive in the game, I'm sorry. I think the ESPN broadcast is awful. I don't think there's much ESPN touches that is good. I guess college football they're decent with, but I know you came here for the game, but I'm going to vent that for a couple minutes. I thought it was terrible. I'll be honest, the Little League thing doesn't really do it for me. I've got kids, so it's not like a anti-kid thing. Good for the kids. I'm glad they have that game. Enjoy it. That stuff's all cool. Watching the pregame for it, you would think it's like the greatest event in the history of sports. I know they're trying to hype up their own event, but it's just like, it's a regular season game with importance to me. I don't know why that game just isn't at Shea Stadium. If you want to do those kind of games and other avenues, I think that should be done. More so spring training or other times of the year. I hate the in-game player interviews. They are so stupid and distracting. I don't need to hear as guys are chasing after balls in the field. It doesn't add anything. I get the concept of it. I'm not mad at the players for doing it. They probably have to. Pete Alonso was fine. Julio was great and charismatic as always in that. But man, I don't care. And it takes away from the enjoyment of the game. I don't need to hear about Pete Alonso talking about how cool someone is while the Mariners are trying to get a run. Talk about the game, describe it. And the same goes for when Julio's in the outfield. I don't care about Juan Soto not running or not. Then they got Sean Manaea up in the booth, and he's celebrating as the Mets are blasting home runs against the Mariners. And it's like, just call the game. I don't mind doing the things in between commercials, getting to know the player stuff with the kids, all fine. Just call. Can ESPN call a baseball game? By the way, ESPN just, I think, bought the rights to the red zone. I don't think it's happening this year, but in the future, they're going to ruin the red zone. I can promise you that. ESPN is awful. I don't know if you guys saw it, and I'm sorry. I know you're like, can you talk about the game? I will. There was a host on a show, and a guy came in with a Barry Sanders jersey on, and she thought it was Shador Sanders. How do you host a sports show and not know Barry Sanders? It's a Lions number 20 jersey. It says Sanders. What part of you would think that's Shador Sanders? I'm sorry. I hate ESPN. They used to be great. Used to just be able to turn it on and watch sports. I highly recommend. I think MLB Network is better. I think NFL Network is better. Just an awful broadcast. If you liked it, totally fine. It's an opinion. I'm not going to argue with anybody because there's no right or wrong here. Like, if you like their broadcast, totally fine. We can still be friends. It's not a personal thing. I just can't stand it. Okay. And then Victor Robles we'll talk about a little bit later here. Horrible performance for the Mariners. Not a great start to this road trip, 2-4. We talked about it being a difficult road trip. They're not off to a great start here. And just frustrating because this team seems like it's either red hot or ice cold. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of normalness out of this baseball team. I'm not shocked this road trip has been a struggle for them. I kind of thought after this homestand, this was going to be a tough one to navigate through. But you kind of raised your competition each time, right? Baltimore's the easiest team, then the Mets, then the Phillies, and you've lost the first two. Now you go play the toughest team where 2-7 is not impossible on this road trip, and that starts to become a problem for you. You've had opportunities. The Orioles are beating the Astros this weekend. You could have gotten to within a half a game. Cleveland got beat up by the Braves. Now that's a good thing because you hold your 4-game lead. But there's a chance you could be, I think the Royals are now the next team. I think they're 5 behind you. You could be 5 games or more up on a playoff spot right now. You could have secured, the first wild card a little bit more. The Marlins come back and beat the Red Sox today. You can look at it both ways. You can say, hey, it's not a big deal that the Mariners lost because other teams are losing. or you can get frustrated. The Mariners had an opportunity to, extend their lead or climb closer in the American League West and weren't able to do it with a couple tough performances. Didn't expect them to sweep the Mets. McLean was solid yesterday. I was willing to tip my cap. Today was just a dud. It was just a dud overall. The offense had a couple moments and a couple opportunities. Cal gets number 47, very cool. But the Mariners leave the bases loaded in the fourth inning. Chance to really climb back into that, really didn't. And then George Kirby was bad. No doubt about it. In fact, had he gotten out of that with only giving up the 3 runs, it would have been lucky. He was not sharp at all. He would have been fortunate to survive giving up the 3 runs. Then Vientos gets the 3-run home run and just not a good outing at all from George Kirby. He's been really good the last month and a half or so. But this was a dud today, and can't have these, right? You are really in the home stretch now. 37 games left. You've got to be dialed in. Season is far from over. This is not some sort of, oh my gosh, this is done now. But you got to have better baseball. You got to play more like you did in the homestand. You don't have to win 9 out of every 10 baseball games. The Mariners do that, they're going to be the number 1 seed, in the playoffs. That means they're going to lose like 4 more games all season. That's not going to happen. But they've got to find a middle ground a little bit better. It's been part of the team's problem the last 2 years. They're either the team that's red hot and everyone's got them in the World Series, or you wonder how they even, could go into Colorado and win a series. And they've got to find the middle ground a little bit. Still time on this road trip, right? I mean, they could go into Philly and win it. Baseball's a funny sport. I probably had my most down moment with this team after the Brian Wu game against the Yankees, right? You blow a 5-run lead there in the 8th inning. Now you're going to face Tarek Skubal and Detroit. There was no chance, right? This is going to be the road trip that's going to sink them. And then they beat Skubal, beat Casey Mize, and sweep Detroit and blowout fashion in all 3. Detroit at the time had the best record in the AL. I think Philly is at the best record in the NL or close to it, with the Dodgers would be, or no, the Brewers. The Brewers haven't stopped winning. So you never know, right? And you're facing 3 really good pitchers: Ranger Suarez, Carlos Sanchez. Luzardo's cooled off a little bit, but he's solid. All 3 lefties. Gonna need the Mitch Garvers of the world to produce a little bit here. But it's certainly not impossible. But to bank on doing that is not smart, right? That they're not. It's possible, but the odds are not likely. So just to me, it's more just it's disappointing, right? It's just been a disappointing road trip. You hate it after the great homestand here. You hope they find a way in Philly. If they can win 2 out of 3, 4 and 5. Not a killer road trip, and come back home, maybe do some damage. Schedule's kind of weird for the Mariners the rest of the way. They don't really have any terrible teams. They do play the Rockies, but you've got a lot of games against teams like the Angels and Braves that, while the Braves don't have a great record, they're talented. You get the Cardinals still. The A's are a team kind of like the Braves, where it's like there's a ton of talent there despite the record not being great. So going to be some interesting games here down the stretch. No real gimmies, I guess what I'm trying to say, for the Mariners outside that 3-gamer against the Rockies. It's going to be battles. It's going to be teams that are good enough to beat you. So you got to be careful. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, they had to go 4-2 on this road trip. That would put them at like 13-3 over a 16-game stretch. But they do have to be careful, and they need to learn from the past too, because I talked about it yesterday. I sat here 2 years ago and wasn't too worried in September when they lost a few games. Said the same thing I'm saying now. Hey, you can bounce back and win tomorrow. Not a big deal. And it just didn't happen. And teams caught up to them. Texas got on one more hot streak. So did Toronto, and Houston as well in 23. And you didn't get in. So, you certainly, no one's throwing in the towel. You're a game and a half back of the Astros. If you beat Houston in a series starting tomorrow, you'd be right there, essentially tied with them with the tiebreaker. You're 4 up on a playoff spot with 37 to go. That should give you pretty good odds to get in. But you certainly have to play better than this, no doubt. And it's also just disappointing when, the team has a big series here in New York, against a team it doesn't matter to me if the Mets are scuffling or not, but a team on the big stage and a chance to kind of make a statement on the national stage, and they don't do it, right? It seems to be a struggle for this team. It'd be great if they could go into Philly and find a way to win the series, just to give us that, hey, this team can go in on the road and win a series against a really good baseball team. I know they did it against Detroit, but I want to see it again. It's just, of course, obviously I'm I think everything's still right in front of you, but it's kind of frustrating justifying these losses too, a little bit. I know it sounds like a weird thing to say, but it is kind of like, well, because it's not, right? It's not the end of the world. But man, I want to see them go and take it to some of these teams that are good baseball teams. I want to see them, put the foot on the throat of the Mets a little bit. Go to Philly and make a statement here. This is a team that if you happen to get to a World Series in Philly that you could easily run into, go there and beat them in a series, right? Like, come on, guys, like step up and give us that confidence that this team can compete on the big stage a little bit here. So it's always a tough team to talk about, right? I say it all the time that it would be far more frustrating, but the Rockies would be much easier team for me to do recaps on because they stink. There's no debate. With the Mariners, we see signs of a great baseball team. And then we just see duds where, it's like, I can't blame fans that don't get super invested, right? That listen, obviously the Mariners history alone, kind of, it's understandable that you're not super invested. But then they finally have that great homestand, great trade deadline. And, people start buying back in and then they turn on these games going, hey, the Mariners have been hot. And they see them just look kind of blah against Baltimore and the Mets. Like, I can sit here Don Blue in the face and tell you, hey, long season, yada, yada, yada. But I also can't blame you going, Jay, seen it before. I've seen this before. So, I tend to be more on the side of it's okay, but I get it. I do. It is very, very frustrating. And I talk about, playing a team like the Mets can be tough because of how cold they are. They're better than this. But why do the Mariners have to be the get right series? Why can't they be the team, like I said, that keeps the foot on the throat a little bit? Let's go ahead and get into the box score here. And then we'll talk about Robles at the end. George Kirby, 4 2/3, 12 hits. I didn't even realize he gave up that many hits. 7 runs, all earned, 3 walks, 4 Ks, the home run to Vientos. Awful. Kirby was terrible. I mean, I think looking at the box score makes it realize it was even worse than I thought, to be honest. 3 walks is not acceptable from George. 12 hits. Sure, some of them probably little bloopers that fell in. There were a couple, I think Beatty and maybe Lindor had one that was kind of a bloop, but that's still too many. He would have been very fortunate to get out of that with 3 earned runs. So bad day for George. Hope he bounces back. Going to need him. He's been pitching really well recently until today. Good to see Taylor Saucedo throw the ball well. 2 1/3, 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. Really good to see. I wouldn't mind Sauce sticking and having the sauce sticking to the pan and Legumina or Coar going down necessarily. 3 lefties might be a little redundant, but really impressed with Taylor Saucedo today. I thought he threw the ball well. And the few games he's gotten in since kind of being up, down a little bit for the past few months, he's actually thrown the ball really solid and looking more like 2023 Taylor Saucedo. So MVP of the game, maybe Sauce. And Coar threw a shutout inning, did have a hit and a walk, but a couple Ks, which is good to see. Big Dumper gets number 47. That's your highlight offensively. 1 away from tying Sal Perez for the catcher's record. I can't believe I didn't mention on Friday, Cal already had 100 RBIs. It was a big thing last year. So cool to see him get that. Now he's at 102 this year. I mean, he could get to 120. It's not crazy. Got to get some guys on base in front of him, but just the amazing season for the Big Dumper continues. Mariners do get 10 hits. Again, didn't feel like they had that many. And really, again, struggle capitalizing with runners on. 1 for 6. Friday was great, but Saturday and Sunday, not so much. Clay Holmes has been scuffling of late. The command controls have been great. He is a ground ball pitcher. But you'd like to get a few more runs against him. Even McClain yesterday, right? No doubt he threw the ball well. That sweeper had insane movement. They were saying like the most RPMs of any pitch in baseball or something like that. I mean, that's crazy. But still, you had opportunities to get to him and welcome him to the big leagues a little bit. And the Mariners didn't do that. It's like the seems to be like that close to being that team that can just dominate. And, it was so fun when and I know it's the White Sox, so maybe not the best example. I remember when they knocked out Jonathan Cannon in that game, and I said in the video, Cannon had no chance against this offense. And it was fun to say that because it was true. Think back again. I know I reference this team all the time, but it's the one championship we have, the Seahawks, 2013. I mean, you saw games against these backup quarterbacks. Who am I trying to think of that would be, an example? Kellen Clemens, guys like that. Although the Rams were always feisty against the Seahawks, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You'd see some of these backup quarterbacks like, dude, there was no chance that guy's putting up more than 7 points, 8 points, or 6 on the Seahawks defense. It's just not happening. My recaps would have been like, yeah, gee, I'm totally shocked that Christian Ponder was 12 of 32 against the LOB. Like, no duh. Like, they were going to dominate that. It was fun to see that from the Mariners offense. You'd like to get back to that. You'd like to see a rookie pitcher, even as a top prospect. Like if that 2013 Seahawks team would have played, who was the number 1 draft pick quarterback back then? I'm spending way too much time on the 2013 Seahawks here. I can't remember the drafts back then and who were the big quarterbacks. Andrew Luck actually got to them a couple times. But you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a big thing. Oh, top prospect pick coming in to face the Legion of Boom. Ain't going to matter. They're going to get to you. They're going to beat you. And you know, the Mariners offense should be good enough to kind of do that. And they weren't. I know I'm all over the place with this a little bit, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about frustration-wise. Randy was 1 for 4 as we get back to the box score. Cal was so solid today, 2 for 5, the home run and the base hit. Julio had a couple hits. He was 2 for 5, a single in the 9th inning there, and then the double that didn't. Oh, no. Did he score? I think he did score. I think that was Polanco drove him in. Naylor 0 for 5. Wondering if the back or shoulder is bothering him a little bit. He did not have a good series here. Was off the first game. Even in Baltimore, you know, a couple nice at-bats, but not a great series for him overall there. Gino had a hit. It was an infield hit. Good to see Polanco check in with a couple. He had the RBI single. He's been cold of late, but he gets a single and a double today. Dom was 1 for 2 with 2 walks. JP 1 for 3 with the walk. Cole Young, tough game, 0 for 4. He had that at-bat there in the 4th inning, up 3-0 in the count. Down 3-1. That felt like a really crucial at bat. And then he gets down 3-1 and pops up. That felt like an at bat where he draws a walk there. I wonder if this game maybe changes a little bit there. So that was a tough one. You know, it's funny. You read off that box score, and there's some decent games in there, right? Dom's on base 3 times, JP twice, Polanco twice, Julio and Cal twice, Randy once. I mean, your top of the order goes, 14 at bats. Goes 5 for 14 with the home run, a double, a hit by pitch. Randy was also hit by a pitch. Like, that's not terrible. But again, just, you know, not getting guys on, moving them over and getting them in. Feels like a game where they probably left some runs out there. You know, even in the 9th inning, they get a couple on. If Naylor works a better at bat, Gino comes up as the tying run. Do I think he would have homered? No. But, you know, at least it gives you a chance, right? It gives you something there to have hope for. So, yeah, like I said, you read the box score, you go, man, it doesn't sound too bad, but just not a lot of firepower from the team right now. So need to play better. Victor Robles, by the way. So I shouldn't laugh. That's not funny, but Victor Robles has been getting hit by a ton of pitches on his rehab assignment. Got hit today by Joey Estes from the River Cats, right? The A's AAA. And then frustrated, every right to be frustrated. But Victor Robles throws his bat at Estes. I don't know if it hit him or not. I didn't see that camera angle. I don't think it did, but he's probably going to be suspended. And that's a big blow because Robles was looking like he was close to being back in the next couple of weeks. I don't know how long that suspension is going to be. I imagine it's going to be a pretty serious one. I mean, you could make a case that's assault, throwing your bat at somebody. I get the frustration, but you can't do it, right? I mean, I don't think I should have to explain that. You have every right to be frustrated. If Victor wants to jaw at him a little bit, totally fine. Can't throw your bat at somebody. That's simple. So we'll see what ends up coming out of that. I'll maybe make a short when there's some news announced about that suspension, but very disappointing because Victor Robles, kind of a guy you need, right? You're facing a lot of lefties. Not that I think you'd be back tomorrow, but you know, you've struggled a little bit against lefties. Would have been nice. Would have been nice to get him back soon. I have no idea what the team is doing with Luke Raley. I'm baffled. Polanco's been scuffling, but had a nice game today. I don't know why you don't have Dom DH a game and Raley in right field. I don't know why you activate Luke Raley and then he hasn't had a single at bat or anything like that. I'm not saying Dom hasn't been solid. I'm not saying even Polanco hasn't been, but I don't get it. And you're facing 3 lefties the next 3 days. So Luke's not going to play there. Why don't you just let him have more rehab at bats and keep Miles Mastroboni on the roster? At least you get some base running in late innings. And you can't even really use Luke Raley as a pinch hitter because who's he going to pinch hit for? I mean, obviously I think Polanco's scuffling, but you're not going to pinch hit for Polanco late. You know, he's not going to pinch hit against a left-handed pitcher for Dom or anything like that. So the only way Luke Raley right now, if you're not going to give him some starts that he's going to play, is Dylan Moore's going to run for Gino late in the game, and then Luke's going to pinch hit for Demo, in extra innings. That's the only opportunity he really has for at-bats. I think you can use them. I think you can rotate them around. Like, what I would have probably done is yesterday, given Dom a day off. Luke's in right field. Today, give Polanco a day off. Dom DHs, Luke's in right. Against the lefties is tough, but you can put him in at first base. Give Naylor a day off, or have Naylor DH. Polanco can play second base and give Cole Young a day off. Like, you can rotate this around, and it just seems weird. Like, Luke Raley has been a good hitter. I just don't understand why he seemed to be, just this forgotten guy. And Dom's been fine, like I said, and even though he's scuffling a bit, Polanco has still been fine. But I just don't get why you can't find a single at bat for him. And then, why just let him keep rehabbing for a couple weeks, as long as you can keep him down there. I don't get the purpose of bringing him up if you're not going to at least use him once, in the 3 games. And then, like I said, he's probably not going to play in Philly because you got 3 lefties on the hill. So I'm not really sure what they're doing there, but I don't think it's like costing them games. It just seems weird to me. So I'm done. You got to be better in Philly. You don't want this road trip getting to 2-7. It's definitely there. Philly, like I said, Philly's one of those teams that are good enough. You could play okay and get swept against them. So you got to bounce back, play better baseball than this. And, Houston's going to get hot again at some point. Yordan Alvarez is starting a rehab assignment. You caught a break with Cleveland getting swept this weekend, but they could get hot. Kansas City's getting hot now. Shocker, the Yankees weren't the worst team in baseball. They're starting to play better. Boston maybe cools off a little bit. But, again, I am still pretty confident they make the playoffs. But what are you going to be? The last wild card team that gets, which is great. We'll sell. Trust me. Mariners getting the playoffs. We're celebrating. Okay. Well, we have not had a lot of playoff appearances. We're celebrating. But what are you going to be? The last wild card team that has to go to Fenway Park for 3 games, Lord have mercy on us. Or are you going to be a team that can win the division? And even if it's a wild card series, you're hosting Boston or New York, a much more winnable 3 games there. So, or are you winning the division? So what's it going to be? We'll find out. This is going to be a big series for them. They need to win it. It's not something that they have to, I think, win to get in the playoffs, but I want to see this team beat a good baseball team. Take care, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, go Mariners. Peace.